Hi there. Welcome to the WiCyS webinar. Today, we're so happy to have the Target team here to be discussing the Cyber Defense Challenge made possible by Target. My name is Lynn Daum, and I'm Women in Cybersecurity Executive Director. We most often go by our acronym WiCyS, W-I-C-Y-S, and we pronounce it WiCyS like we sisters because that's exactly what we are. We are a cyber sisterhood. And our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity, and we do so by creating opportunities. We have over 5,400 members comprised of women, men, allies, and advocates, all with the strong mission and passion to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. So we have many different initiatives that include our online member forum. Within our member forum, we have special interest groups such as Latinas in cybersecurity or military spouses in cybersecurity. We have data privacy or cybersecurity law. Whatever conversation you want to get involved in, you can with our special interest group. And if that conversation isn't already started, you could launch your own as well. We have many different skill development training programs, and they're all on our website, WiCyS.org, such as this training program, the Cyber Defense Challenge made possible by Target. We have newsletters and webinar series, scholarships, grants, and awards, not only for our conference coming up, well, not necessarily coming up, which is next year already, March 16th through the 18th, 2023 in Denver, Colorado. But we also issue scholarship grants and awards for other conferences as well. Our Cyber Talent Emergency Fund is a financial funding opportunity for students within their last 4 semesters of graduating with a cybersecurity degree to receive up to $599 for financial emergencies like medical expenses, or to pay for their credit hours, or if they have their car breakdown. We don't want anything to deter anyone from finishing and completing their studies. We have speaking and media opportunities so our members can be what others can see, and that's cybersecurity professionals that they are. The Job Board Plus is a place for strategic partners like Target to recruit from and post their jobs in, and all our members have access to upload their resumes and update their profiles. We have veteran apprenticeships, internships, participate in market research, have leadership series, leadership summits, veteran assistance program, military spouse assistant program, all that and so much more. We owe that as a special thanks to our strategic partners, including Target, that brings us the webinar today and the training program that they're going to be discussing further. So we want to encourage everyone to dive in and ask questions. I know our info@WiCyS.org email has been receiving a lot of inquiries about the Cyber Defense Challenge. We've had a tremendous amount of people participate and register so far, so we're super excited about that. But there are questions about how many hours is this going to take? What's the commitment? And what do the tiers look like? And this is what the Target team is here for now, to be able to answer those questions. So at the bottom of your screen, you have a chat function for you to put those questions in, and the Target team will answer them at the end of the webinar. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the WiCyS newsletter. We roll out so many different initiatives and training programs that we want you to keep up to date on everything WiCyS. So you could go to WiCyS.org and check that out. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic on over to Jody Kaut, and she'll take it from here.
Well, good morning, everybody. I really appreciate you jumping on and joining us to learn a little bit about the Target and WiCyS Cyber Defense Challenge. Before we get into the weeds of the Defense Challenge, I wanted to zoom out a little bit to first talk a little bit about why we're really excited about doing this, and then talk a little bit about why I've loved the industry for, 16 plus years, and why I've enjoyed having my career at Target. I'm Jody Kaut. I actually lead our cyber defense team at Target. I've been here for quite some time in many different roles across our Target security team. And the Target team is extremely excited to bring this challenge to the WiCyS community because it checks a lot of the boxes of the things that we're really passionate about within the Target security organization. It touches on team and how we're really passionate about investing in our team members' growth within their cybersecurity capabilities, It allows our team to give back to the community and learn with so many of you. It touches on our passion for collaboration. We are really passionate about working across the industry in order to raise everybody up. Cybersecurity is a team sport, and we're only going to succeed if we're all in this together. And so this gives us an opportunity to collaborate with you that we would have never had a chance to do before. And then culture. We're really passionate about our culture at Target, that we have a culture where we really care about one another. We lean in and work together with diverse team members with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different experiences that really bring our team to life. And we want to bring that passion for the culture that we have at Target out to the industry for how we all work together. And I hope as you work with our cyber defense team that you get a firsthand experience of what that culture really means. For me personally, I've loved being a part of this industry for all the reasons I highlighted. In addition to the fact that you can do so many different things. If you're in the cyber industry, or if you're in the security team at Target, you can do everything from going deep in compliance and leaning into PCI and SOX, or leaning into risk management practices, whether that's in more of a security consulting role. Many organizations call that BISO, or Business Information Security Officer, or a vendor security team, or training and awareness, or lean in and learn engineering and be a security engineer, or focus on defense. You're going to get to experience what a lot of the different defense roles look like, whether that's you're passionate about cyber threat intelligence or incident response, or recently a lot of organizations, and Target sort of paving the way with this, are bringing fraud and abuse into their cyber organization. So what does it mean to look at organized retail crime? What does it mean to identify these fraud rings and work with law enforcement? So that's kept me interested for many years to jump around those different areas and round up my skill sets. We're also deepening them in specific areas as well. So excited to be here with you today. I'm going to actually pass it over to Erin, who will talk a little bit more about the benefits to you of joining this challenge before Kelsey and Kyle give us the deep dive of what the challenge really is for you. So Erin, why don't you take us away?
Sounds great. Thanks, Jody. And as Jody said, I'm Erin Becker, Senior Director over Cyber. She mentioned cyber fraud and abuse. That's the area that I have the opportunity to lead at this point. And similar to what she said, the field, there's such a wide breadth of everything that we could do. So there's always opportunities. But also, as Jody and Lynn highlighted, Target is super excited to support women across our field, not only to retain them in cybersecurity, but to retain them in our own organizations, and then also help advance them in all aspects of their career. As I'm newer to WiCyS over the last probably quarter and a half, I've seen a common theme across everything the organization does, and that's really building connections and advocating for each other as women. It's so inspiring to be a part of. This WiCyS challenge brought to you by Target is an example of that. The benefits of WiCyS, being able to learn and grow while working with cyber defense team to get a sense of what our day-to-day operations is. You'll be able to make these connections and network with your peers. Plus, at the end of the challenge, we're going to pick 10 participants that will receive a scholarship to attend the 2023 WiCyS challenge. The names listed here on the slide are part of the Target's cyber defense team that have spent months and many hours being super thoughtful on the approach of how to create this tiered challenge. I'm going to be honest, this challenge is going to be tough. It will build up your skill set and enhance your skill set. And it will take some time to accomplish. But this team and I will be here every step of the way to help the participants be successful, by either answering questions in Slack, providing tips and tricks throughout, or even spending extra lab time as needed, ultimately supporting all of you and the participants that to be successful in the challenge. We do have, as Jody mentioned, 2 of our cyber defense team members here to present a high level of, without giving any secrets away, of our challenge. And but first, I'm going to ask them to tell a little bit about their role, and then also talk through what they like at Target. So I'm going to please give a warm welcome to Kelsey, and Kyle, and I'm going to hand it over to you all.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm a principal analyst on Target's cyber threat intelligence team. So our team researches the threat landscape to inform detection measures, responsive actions, and prioritization for decisions in the security space. So I work on the strategic end of our team, which means that I use this knowledge for looking at long-term trends and collaboration with other teams to keep us safe. So my favorite thing about working at Target is the dedication to continued learning. It's really a very cool culture where my colleagues are excited to learn from one another every day. And having such a smart team means there's so many opportunities for all of us to grow.
I'm Kyle. I'm a lead analyst on a tactical CTI team. So our team focuses on the threat actors behind the malware and how they're using that malware and how all of those pieces fit together. This includes things like tracking infrastructure and writing collection rules so we can stay on top of these groups. And of course, piecing all of that data together to tell the story of what these threat actors are up to. I've been at Target for 6 years now, and one of my favorite uniquely Target experiences I've had was a few years ago, the Dog Days of Summer, which was this outdoor event where we had putt-putt golf, ice cream, and a giant pen just full of all these puppies. And there's also Starbucks in the office, which is very cool.
Kyle, I love that Kelsey highlighted the 50 days of learning. So when Kelsey talks about the investment in learning, something we have at Target is called 50 days of learning, where we ask every team member to basically take a day out of every week to just invest in themselves and skill up. And that might mean we're paying for them to go to a SANS training or paying for a certification. And then I love that Kyle says that he got to cut a lot of puppies once. But you get both of them at Target. You get the spectrum, whatever it is that suits your needs to enjoy what you do every day. Maybe Kyle's is Starbucks and puppies, and Kelsey's is 50 days of learning. So thank you all for sharing that background. We really appreciate it.
Okay, so before getting into the challenge, I want to tell you a bit more about our Cyber Fusion Center and the team behind the making of this challenge. We have several teams that all sit together and collaborate for cyber defense, each of us with our own specialization. So you heard from Kyle and I about CTI and Erin on fraud. So to cover a few more, we also have a threat intelligence detection engineering team for writing custom detection based on the threats we care about most. We have a cyber incident response team that responds to the alerts from detection for remediation. We have an enterprise incident management team that manages large-scale incidents with their contacts across the organization. We have a reverse engineering team that helps discover more about malware to enhance our understanding. We have our engineering and tooling teams to create custom software and tooling for all the rest of these teams and for whatever their needs are. And some of those you can find open sourced as well. So the reason this challenge is so extremely cool is we had input and collaboration from each of these teams in creating this challenge. In addition, with all of these different perspectives, we incorporated what it feels like to be on these different teams. So let's get into the challenge then. This is split into 3 tiers, with each building upon itself. And we really wanted this to feel similar to our day-to-day work in the Cyber Fusion Center. So we started by creating a threat actor, using the knowledge that Kyle and I and the rest of our CTI team collect every day on real threat actors. So using this knowledge on what threat actors actually do, the challenge team built out these 3 tiers with each tier emulating a stage of an attack and increasingly getting more difficult as we go. Each tier also has you as a participant playing a role on a different team within our Cyber Fusion Center. So as Erin said, it can get quite tough, especially depending on your existing level of knowledge, but we are here to help. So before Kyle tells you more about each tier, I wanted to emphasize just a few quick things. You should complete this challenge in a virtual machine, and we'll provide resources for the best ways to set up your environment. Each tier will have a deliverable with grading for correct answers, level of detail and clarity, as well as general engagement with check-ins and a cohort on Slack. And while the deliverable won't change, and you will have all the knowledge you need at the beginning of each tier, we are going to be providing helpful hints along the way. All right, Kyle, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks. So like Kelsey was saying, right, the challenge is broken up into 3 tiers to show different steps of attacks, as well as different workflows that are happening daily in the Cyber Fusion Center. So to start with tier 1, we kick it off with an alert from the incident response team. They're working a malware case and they need help attributing it to a threat group. So they engage the cyber threat intelligence team. They're asking for help, pointing out, hey, this activity, is it related to any threat group that you're aware of? In this stage, participants will be given a malicious Office document file, and right there, we're asking them to help the IR team analyze this document. With the next stage, with tier 2, we have a follow-up from the IR team, but in this case, they're talking to the reverse engineers, and what they need this time is help analyzing one of the payloads they found that they believe to be related to the initial attack. So they're wondering if there's any additional data that can be pulled from this payload that will help them scope our environment, looking for any kind of indication of a successful attack. And finally, we need to look at automating this process. So all the teams get together and they realize, instead of doing this manually every time, we need to speed this up so that we can look at this data in a more holistic view. So this is where the engineering team kicks in. And we're really asking if participants or this engineering team can see how feasible this process that you went through with the other steps is for developing a Strelka scanner to help extract these key indicators from the malicious payload. And that's it for the 3 tiers. So, right, and finally, right, if you're wondering about what the process looks like for progressing to the next level, really the big thing to remember is that this whole challenge is about getting a look into what our day-to-day looks like in the CFC at Target, and it's about building your own experience. So dive headfirst into the challenge, submit whatever you have, and like Kelsey was saying, there's going to be Slack and office hours available so we can help out too.
And Kyle and Kelsey, do you just want to highlight a little bit about the fact that we'll have a kickoff for each tier that's going to go in depth? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. Like Jody was saying, there's going to be a more in-depth kickoff for each of the tiers. I forget what date this first one is, but it'll go into the scenario a lot more than this the brief summary I gave right now, as well as there's like a threat actor profile we'll go over, and included in that document will be a list of references that can help you get started, tips on how to set up your environment, and what kind of tools you might want to look at using to help with this process.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. So we will get the dates and everything to the group for exactly when we'll be kicking off the deep dive for tier 1 to officially launch. If you decide to join, you'll get all the levels of specificity that you need in the tier 1. But we do have quite a few questions from the group. Before I start maybe helping to facilitate questions for you all, anything else, Erin, Kelsey, or Kyle, that you want to hit on before I start running down some of these questions? Good. Okay, I'll start running down the questions. I'll just add, obviously for the scholarship winners, I'm really excited to meet you in person at next year's conference, and for everybody else, excited to meet you in person. It's been a long 2 years being disconnected to the community, so I can't wait for more of that in-person connection, where I don't just feel like a floating head on another webinar, and we can actually interact with you. So I can't wait for that. But until then, we'll get to your questions virtually here. Some great questions. So can you highlight some of the technical skills needed aside from a leadership role for cyber defense roles? I'm assuming that's specific to this challenge, what might be some of the technical skills needed? And Kelsey or Kyle, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I would say that with these challenges, a lot of the skills will rely on kind of like an intro to malware analysis, getting deeper through that as the challenges go on, as well as some engineering background would be good. But again, all of that resources will be provided for all that. I think the tier documents themselves include like specific tools for each kind of scenario or each task that you might need to do.
Yeah, and we do have plenty of references as well. So, as long as you are able to kind of facilitate some of your own learning around new subjects, I think that that's really an important skill in cyber in general, just being able to kind of pick things up as you go along, since there's always something new that we're doing every day as well. So that is also going to be something that you'll probably experience at least once through this challenge.
Great call out. And then can you let us know from a cyber defense perspective if we need to learn any scripting languages? If so, which ones? And what areas would be needing this particular skills?
At least for me, as far as I know, like I use Python all the time. Like I'm probably in Python every day. So I would say that. And I think we do use Python in the final tier of the challenge. I think that's what the Strelka scanners are written in. So that would be useful for this challenge as well as just in general, in my opinion. But really any scripting language that you can use to automate your workflow is going to be good. Right? You don't want to manual tasks get boring.
Yeah, the first two tiers, it shouldn't be necessary, but it can be helpful. Yep. But yeah, other than that, I'd say Python as well.
Yeah, great. Great question. And then there's a few questions that I'll group together. I'm generally new or newer to the cyber industry. Should I go for this challenge?
Yes. This is going to be a great opportunity to learn, not just what skills you need, but also what areas of cyber are interesting to you, since you are going to be kind of playing a role on these different teams. So not only will you get an idea of just all of the different types of positions, but you'll really get to see what we do day to day and kind of figure out more like what skills you should build in the future, depending on what's interesting to you.
Yeah, and I think Kyle, you mentioned just digging in, figuring out what you can learn in each of these different tiers, and then submitting what you have. Participation is definitely a big thing too, because each of the tiers you're going to learn something new. So I think even if you are newer to cyber, newer to engineering, like definitely try. So.
Yeah, and I think that lends the answer to another question, which is what kind of experience do I need? Even if you have no experience, we want to provide this opportunity for you to connect with the cyber team members at Target so that we can help train you regardless of how high you go through the tiers. Some of you may choose to just do tier 1. You may choose to progress or have the ability to progress all the way to tier 3, but the team's here for the ride to be that mentor to you as you go. So go for it. That's the whole point. It's a safe way to learn. I can give the quick answer. Is the training remote? Yes, all of the training will be remote. We do hope next year at the next WiCyS conference that we're able to connect with all of you more in person, but yes, it will be remote throughout. And then there's a question around interest in applying for internships or roles at Target and how do you do so? Normally we'd give you a formal answer around going to our careers website, all that good stuff. But for now, why don't you just reach out to me and I'll make sure we get you connected with the talent acquisition team. So the best way to reach me is at my Target email. So I'll say this twice. It's jody.kaut@target.com. And so how you spell that is JODIE.KAUTT@target.com. And I'll make sure that we get you routed to the right support so we can funnel you through the right process. I'm super passionate about engaging with the research community, so don't hesitate. You can always find me on LinkedIn if that's easier too. Let's see. This might be a Kyle and Kelsey question. For the automation part, how does PowerShell compare to Python for the third tier?
So that is a good question. I know a lot of people are at least from my experience, a lot of people who are familiar with PowerShell, right, like will have a strong Windows background. I think a lot of the tasks that you would be automating can probably be done in PowerShell, but in this case, right, with the delivery being a Strelka scanner, the final thing that you submit will be in Python, or I don't think there's any other supported languages in Strelka for Strelka scanners. But what I would do is, if I was more familiar with PowerShell, is like get it working in PowerShell and then just try to map those functions to Python, and then fill in the Strelka scanner with that. That's what I would do.
That's a good tip. So this is a career question really for Kelsey and Kyle. How did you first get your start in threat intelligence, and how would you suggest someone who's just starting their cyber journey to get into threat intelligence?
Yeah, so I actually started in cyber engineering. So I was doing a lot of, hands-on protection work of different systems. But through that, I just really wanted to start getting ahead of the curve. So I was really wanting to figure out what were threat actors going to be doing to be able to kind of preempt those actions. And so that's really how I got into threat intel. I found out that there's a team that does that. So I just worked with my leadership at that point in time to get onto that threat intel team. And, that's kind of how it happened. But I had a background in computer science. So that's how I got into cyber engineering in the first place.
Yeah, for me, I've had a lot of different roles in cyber over the years. I started out on the incident response team at Target. And a few years after that, I moved to the detection engineering team, which the way the team was organized at the time was like, it was a split between the tactical CTI role and the detection role. So you would be given a threat group and you would be responsible for learning as much as you can about them, as far as like how they operate, what are their TTPs, and as well as how do we detect them. So we would be creating collection rules, and then we'd be creating network rules, file-based rules, all this stuff. Like for me, I dug into it and I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of like Kelsey was saying earlier, like everything's changing all the time, so it stays fresh, and the work you're doing kind of directly makes bad guys have a worse day. So like that's fun. I think that's how I got into threat intel.
I love how you both highlighted how you've moved around, and that's what's so fun about a career in security, and the experiences we've all been able to have in our careers is your ability to move around. A question for me to repeat my name and email. JODIE.KAUTT@target.com. And if you decide to connect with me on LinkedIn, just flag that we connected via WiCyS, and I'll make sure to get those ones through as fast as possible. As you can imagine, we all get a lot of vendor reach outs. So I want to make sure I connect with all of you as fast as I can. There's quite a few questions around timelines and exactly what the dates of everything will be. So the easiest way to find that, and Erin, you can chime in here if you want to give more specifics, but the easiest way to find that would be to go to the website that's highlighted on the slide here. That's going to give you all the details you need. But Erin, anything you want to add?
Nope. I think go to the page. It has everything laid out from when we're doing the kickoff to when the challenge stops for each of the tiers, and then when the kickoff is for each one. We're also going to have mid-tier check-ins with each of the team. We'll also be supporting them on Slack as well from a communications point. And then potentially where you're looking also to have open labs as well. So people can just hop in and talk and ask questions as they get through each of the tiers or any support that they need.
Yeah, the open labs will be great. You'll meet the other target team members from different areas than Kelsey and Kyle too, which will be pretty cool. The registration form mentioned knowledge of cryptography being beneficial. Is it important to learn any basics on cryptography before joining the challenge? And any three of you can grab that one.
I'm trying to remember all of the steps. I don't think it's super important before the challenge. I think everything kind of pieces together, builds upon itself, and with the resources and references provided, I think everything should be good. Mm-hmm. And if not, we have all those open office hours in the Slack channel and all that. I think everything should be good.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree, Kyle. I think they'll have the support along the way and resources points for them. So no pre-work needed is the answer across the challenges. Back to Kyle and Kelsey, can you share a little bit about your day-to-day job for cyber defense? And are there any resources you might recommend for people that are interested in a path like yours?
Yeah. So really our day-to-day is going to be a little different since we're on different sides of the CTI team. But a lot of our day-to-day is going to be looking at tracking different threat actors. So we have threat actors prioritized based on how skilled they are and how likely we think they are to attack targets specifically. So those are the threat actors we're going to track. And we really try to figure out how they work, what they're going to do, and really get ahead of that, both with our detection team, with all of our different systems teams. And, a lot of that is going to be briefed to our leadership and to our incident response teams. So really, it's kind of touching on a lot of things per day, really. It's building out briefs to make sure that our leaders are informed. It's tracking these threat actors. We're going to be getting in little details. We'll be looking at kind of a large picture landscape, like what things should we dive in on next based on what's occurring currently. So yeah, there's a lot of variety day to day. Kyle, do you want to add more to that?
Yeah, I think Kelsey, I think you covered it perfectly. The only thing I would add is for my team, right? Because we focus differently. A lot of my stuff is basing it on data that we see and the tracking that we've done, collection rules is monitoring that to make sure that all right, I thought I was narrowed in on this one specific delivery tactic, but it turns out I was not at all, and I need to tune that rule, or I was dialed in too narrow, and I need to expand it to get new files. So there's a bit of that give and take. But yeah, I would say we just it depends. But...
It's interesting. We our CISO and I were actually talking about this yesterday when we were engaging with a bunch of targets third parties about the criticality of an intel position. Regardless of how small your team is, having an intel-based organization is critical to truly be successful, because we leverage Kyle's and Kelsey's expertise to inform what we need to invest in to protect target. All of their intel pivots and influences everything else we do to determine how we can best protect target against the threat actors that have the capability and interest to do harm to target. And so it's a super fun role that hopefully sounds like many of you are passionate about. So pivoting a little bit, Erin, this is a question for you. What is a good entry-level position to get into working in the fraud department?
Oh, into the fraud department. I would say we have, a couple different teams in there depending on what you like. So we've really mirrored our cyber fraud and abuse team, similar to how our cyber defense team is set up. So we have an intel function, we have a detection function, we have an investigations team similar to like CSERT. And then we also have an engineering solutions team as well, very similar to our cyber defense team holistically. And so depending on like if you're just starting in engineering, we definitely have some startup, first level career for engineering. But then also if you like investigations, it's really around data analysis and digging deep into patterns for fraudsters. And similar to what we just talked about from an intel perspective, intel is critical for our team because we see the fraudsters, they like to talk about everything they're doing out on the dark web and also on public forums. And so we really have open roles in all of those areas and at the starting level. So
one team, large team of Erin's, where we see entry level into fraud too, would be what we call like transaction risk. So Erin owns reviewing all of the purchases on target.com and making a determination if those purchases look like they could be fraudulent or not, and whether or not we should approve those. Do they look malicious? A lot of great intelligence gathered from that function as well. No pressure at all, Erin, for that job of yours.
Yeah, and that's actually a great call because that team, you really get to understand what fraud looks like for everything that goes through target.com. So yeah.
There's a question around if it costs anything that do you have to be a WiCyS member? So no, it does not cost anything to participate, but you do have to be a WiCyS member in order to participate. The Tier 1 kickoff will officially be held April 11th, where you'll get more details. The Slack info to start getting more details as well, I think will launch like April 8th. So all of that sort of nitty-gritty stuff will come out there too. There's a few questions around hours for participation. So, I'm doing an internship this summer, or, I'm simultaneously getting my degree, or I'm in a full-time job. What's the bandwidth sort of expected? And any three of you can go ahead and grab that one.
I think it's really going to depend on your existing skill. It's kind of hard to put like an actual number on it. But really it is going to be, based on your existing skill and how much you want to put into it, essentially. And just a combination of those two. So, regardless of the amount of time you put in, it's still something worth trying because, we do want to see how you progress throughout. We're really excited to work with everyone on this and help enhance your learning, but it's not like expected 10 hours a week or something like that. It's what you're able to do and, the investment you want to make.
Can I just say I love the WiCyS community. You have so many great questions. Like I said yesterday, I was a whole bunch of our third-party vendors for Target. We were going deep on ransomware, and we had like 3 questions. But then, lo and behold, you get with this great community, and you have so many awesome questions. So I'll keep rolling with these since we still have some time. So, Erin, I sort of have a collective group of questions for you. First, can you share your contact information?
Sure thing.
In fraud.
Yep, it's Erin. Similar to Jody's, it's Erin, ERIN, and then it's Becker, BECKER at target.com.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. So that's also an easy place to find you. And then around fraud, 2 questions around fraud. One, does your fraud team work with your assets protection team or your loss protection teams? We call it assets protection, but our physical security team.
Yeah, we actually work really closely with our assets protection team. They have a team within assets protection that is focused on really around organized retail crime, and they have field investigators. So think of us pulling together different potential cases, from a fraud perspective. We work with them to do all of the tactics in the field. So think of store camera, identifying potential fraudsters in stores and other tactical field operations that they do. So I would say, yes, we work really closely with them there. I probably talk to them every day. So yeah, they're definitely one of our key partners.
And if somebody's interested in getting into cyber fraud or cyber financial crime, is it beneficial to be a certified fraud examiner?
We've looked at that I think it's always beneficial to do any type of training because you'll learn more about fraud and so forth, but I would say it's not required.
Thank you, Erin, for
Yeah.
taking some of those fraud questions. Going back to the challenge a little bit, are there any resources, YouTube videos, books, blogs, etc., that the team should use to prepare for the challenge? Or is that something that will come a little bit more at the kickoff?
We'll definitely have more at the kickoff and throughout the tiers. But if you want to just kind of get your head in the right space, I think that something that's very beneficial is research blogs. So ones that are kind of focused on those different tiers. So things around like phishing, things around reverse engineering, and then any of the Strelka documents that we have for, and that you can just Google Strelka documents or Strelka GitHub or something, and you'll be able to find information on that. But those are kind of the main ones. I also think if you want a little bit of like hands-on practice, one of the things I really like to use is Hack the Box. They have some reverse engineering challenges that would probably be beneficial for this.
Thank you, Kelsey. Great call outs. Anything, Erin or Kyle, to add? Or Kelsey covered it for now?
I think she covered it. The only site I was thinking of, I don't even know what the exact name is, but it's like malware traffic analysis. They've got a lot of write-ups on looking into malicious documents and analyzing the network traffic at least. So that could be beneficial.
Yeah, and we can drop these once the Slack, these and any additional ones we might recommend in the Slack once it opens, and then at the tier 1 kickoff as well for you. So another question is, what skills should someone in cyber marketing learn to transition to threat intelligence?
So a lot of those kind of tactical skills and learning basically about bias and analysis would be really useful to just kind of cover the spectrum of like strategic to tactical cyber threat intelligence. So, a lot of there are different ways to look at bias in your analysis, and there's different ways to analyze some of those connections for looking at, threat actor attribution, or looking at like, how is this group going to continue moving forward? That can be really beneficial to like how you think about it. And since that's a lot of what our job is when we're like briefing leadership or looking at what we can do to protect our different systems, that's really important that you don't let some of that, existing thoughts of how a group might work get in the way of performing, correct analysis. So things like that can be useful. A lot of the like tactical skills are useful in terms of understanding infrastructure, understanding malware, and being able to recognize how you can identify a piece of malware and like what is unique about it to be able to find more of that same family of malware. So there's kind of two different sides to it. But Kyle, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelsey. Another question that popped in are, and maybe Erin, you and I can tag team this one. How important are certifications when it comes to hiring employees for cybersecurity roles? I can start because I was having this discussion with my peer this morning. Not important at all.
Yeah.
And Erin laughs too. I shouldn't say not important at all. That's not fair because it's going to maybe depend on certain roles in certain organizations. But for Target in particular, we will do our own screening and our own engagement with anybody we're looking to hire and make the determination based on experience, based on technical screening, based on interactions through interviews, not based on certifications that you've achieved. Certifications can be beneficial. What my peer and I were talking about is the process of getting a certification can be beneficial because of the learning that you get throughout that process, but not that you actually completed. And I'll use CISSP as a good example. You might go through and get your CISSP, and that learning process is really important. You learn a lot, but whether or not you pass the test, I'm less concerned with. But are you finding unique ways to continue to skill up and going through trainings and learnings whatever those might be, is really important. And you'll find, regardless of where you're at, CISO at a company, you're constantly training and skilling yourself up because our organization or our industry is always changing. But we don't say you have to have these certifications for this role, or you have to have these certifications for this role. It's more about your experience and the investments you make in yourself to continuously skill up. So I'd be just as interested to see that you participated in this cyber defense challenge as I would be that you got a certain SAM certification, that you went through a training and learning and skilled up. That's important to me. Erin, I don't know if you'd add anything.
I would just mirror what you said. It is not a prerequisite for a role within our org, or is it something that we're looking for? It's really about that continuous learning and being able to highlight that you are a continuous learner, because as Jody mentioned, and as you all know, being in cybersecurity, it's constantly changing.
So one question is, how many people will be accepted to participate in this challenge? We are not putting a number around, we're only going to accept this many. We want to open the door for all of you to participate, whoever is interested, and we'll work with you as we work through the tiers. So no hard numbers and cutoffs that we're doing. Great question. Let's see. Target only hires in the US and India. Is that correct? Any way for a Canadian to get hired for your cyber team? So it is correct that our two headquarter locations are Bangalore and Minneapolis. We are continuously expanding our remote footprint as well. Cyber's a little bit unique. Our defense teams always had a portion of remote team members. As far as remote team members located outside of the United States or outside of India and how exactly the logistics of that occur, I am not sure. So I don't have a complete answer for that, but we do hire remote team members. Does Target require degrees for cyber jobs? We do not require degrees for cyber jobs. On our job postings, you may see like preferred experiences, but your own experiences could be the equivalent of going and getting a degree. I mean, I'm going to age myself here, but when I went to college, there was not a cyber degree. So my training has been on the job training. It just didn't exist back in the day, I'll say. So no, we do not require certain specific cyber degrees to take certain roles. Let's see here. I see the schedule shows there will be a presentation to the target team. Will there be presentation to other participants so we can see what others found and did? That's a great question. Kyle and Kelsey, any thoughts on that, on whether it will be just with the target team or with other participants?
I don't know. I don't think we've talked about that, at least in any of the meetings I've been involved in.
Yeah.
If Kelsey,
Sorry,
do you have
Kyle.
any other ideas?
No, I mean, that's a good idea to have something viewable, in the future. But I think for people in the future, but I think potentially the actual presentation might be individual with the target team. But again, we're still kind of in discussions around that. So I don't want to say anything definitive there.
Yeah, it's a great question. We had originally thought it was individuals to the target team, but I like your question. So we'll take that back internally. And you all may have noticed that Erin's magically gone. She just slacked me. She got a new laptop this morning and it's not cooperating with her and it just kicked her out. So apologies for that. But the three of us will try to hold down the fort for these last few questions. Let's see. Is there a place within the cyber threat analysis landscape for technical writers who are passionate about cyber as well?
Yes. So that's a thing that I guess I didn't mention before, talking about the strategic cyber threat intelligence work that we do is in a lot of our briefings to other teams, that can be written as well. So we have a lot of written products that we do that we disseminate to the rest of Target and externally as well. So There's definitely a place for that. There's also, outside of Target, a lot of publications have writers that focus specifically on cyber as their topic. So, that's a role where you can either just write while understanding a lot of that background to be able to write up that research. Or there's something where it's, more research-based, more intelligence-based, but you do have that technical writing as a component. It's kind of both sides.
Perfect. Well, I'll answer this last question, and then I think we can get to a point of wrapping. So, reminder, everybody look at the, welcome back, Erin. Reminder, everybody look at the bottom of the slide, grab that page to get all of the additional information. We will be holding the kickoff again on April 11th. The kickoff that we do on April 11th will be a webinar again and will be recorded. So you'll be able to go back and watch the kickoff and get the details that you need from that. And then April 8th, again, the Slack room will open up as well, and we'll be pushing information through there. So that's going to be the best way to connect with the team and find everything you need to enroll in the challenge and all of that good stuff. Any last comments from Kyle, Kelsey, or Erin before we wrap up?
No, but you gotta love new computers.
Oh gosh.
No, all good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to bring this challenge to you all. I think it's a great challenge. The team has worked really hard on it. So we're excited to meet you all and help you through it.
Yeah, that's mostly it. We're just really excited for everyone to join and work with you on this challenge.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you throughout the challenge.